we know is gone. No Google, no Amazon.com, no email, no podcasts. In a world ruled by the dead, we are finally forced to start living.
Welcome, everybody, to the Walking Dead TV Podcast, Episode 3. My name is John. I have with me on this not-so-lovely evening Mr. Jordan from Jersey and Jim Dietz. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, John, how are you going?
Fantastic. On our first try at this recording, we discussed the weather, and then we realized we hadn't hit record, so we're just going to skip that part. Instead, we are going to get right to the Walking Dead talk. We have a great show for you. We have some surprises that we'll get to in a little bit, but first, I'm going to pass it over to Jim for a little zombie news.
It's a zombie news flash.
A slow-moving news flash.
Yeah, zombies do not like fast food. As everyone knows, Pittsburgh is Zombie Town, USA. George Romero started the zombie craze here with Night of the Living Dead back in 1968. We are the zombie town. For 5 years now, we've been doing this will be the 5th annual zombie walk on October 10th, 2010. Up until last year, the zombie walk took place in Monroeville Mall, where the original Dawn of the Dead was filmed. But last year, we had so many people show up that it outgrew the mall. It literally filled the entire mall. So this year, the zombie walk is going to be at Point State Park in downtown Pittsburgh. There's going to be food and fun. There's going to be a food drive. You want to bring canned goods for the Pittsburgh Food Bank. There are going to be live bands, including Deathmobile and the Cynics. It's going to be a lot of fun for kids and adults. And everybody's going to be dressed up with their brains hanging out as zombies. And we'll, of course, get together for the big zombie picture so we can hold on to the world's record of the largest gathering of zombies in the world. So Pittsburgh Zombie Town, USA, come on out for the 5th annual zombie walk. It's brought to you by the It's Alive show, which is kind of, I know a lot of like New York and Cleveland and Pittsburgh, you have the horror movie host. They show the bad horror movies. Fortunately, we still have one in Pittsburgh, and the guys from the It's Alive show put together the zombie walk every year. And it's, they raise a lot of food and awareness for the food bank, and it's for charity, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great excuse to put on a bunch of makeup and stumble around and scream brains with 1,000, 2,000 other people dressed the same way. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, October 10th, 2010, it's going to be starting around 10 in the morning. It'll be going on until sundown. The Pittsburgh Zombie Walk, come check it out.
That sounds freaking awesome.
I know last year was a blast at the mall. Again, they had the bands, and they had some vendors and food vendors, and there's a giant toy store in the Monroeville Mall called Time and Space Toys, and they're one of the big sponsors, and they had giveaways. And I'm sure a lot of that'll be going on and just move down to the park. There'll be a lot more room for everybody to shamble around and look for fresh brains to eat. So Sunday the 10th, if you're in the area, coming down, I'll be down there after brunch, right after the zombie brunch at the Gypsy Cafe.
Fantastic. And unfortunately, I guess not unfortunately, because if you're in the New York area, you're not in the Pittsburgh area, so you wouldn't be able to do both either way. But at the New York Comic Con on Sunday, October 10th, same day as the Zombie Walk, AMC has announced that they will have a Walking Dead panel at the convention just for the AMC television show, which is really awesome. We knew there'd be some Walking Dead content at the Image panel, and Robert Kirkman will be there as well. But for the television show panel, they're going to be showing, we got an email from them over at AMC, and they're going to be showing some footage that hasn't been seen yet. Frank Darabont's going to be there, Robert Kirkman's going to be there. Pretty much the whole cast will be at the panel as well, so that sounds really cool. So anybody that's going down to the Comic Con in Manhattan this weekend, if you can check out the Walking Dead panel Sunday afternoon, I believe it's at 2:30. You can check that out. And another cool thing is, along with that press release, AMC sent us a behind-the-scenes sizzle reel, as they call it in the business of television and movies, I guess. It's a really cool behind-the-scenes video of the AMC show. You have Robert Kirkman kind of narrating you through some of the filming and different things going on. He starts off, you kind of zoom in on like a pile of dead bodies, and then like it turns out Robert Kirkman's sitting underneath them. And he's like, "Hi, I'm Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead." So that's pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. It's not around like everywhere. I haven't seen it popping up on like all of the major news and comic sites, but if you check out hhwlod.com or walkingdeadtv.com, we have it up there. So check it out. It was a lot of fun. And I look forward. I'm going to be at the con, and I'm going to try to make it out to that Sunday afternoon. I really can't pass it up, but I don't know if anybody wants to call my wife and break it to her that I'll be at the con 2 days all day. That would probably help.
I know modesty prevents you from mentioning this, but you're going to be at that podcasting panel on Friday as well, aren't you?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, you know what? We've done a terrible job of promoting that. Friday at 6:30 at the New York Comic Con is the Podcasting 101 panel. And apparently somebody has mistaken me for somebody who knows what they're doing in podcasting, and I will be one of the speakers of the panel. So come down and ask questions and hear how to make podcasts magic, or yell at me and curse.
Johnny M. The M stands for Magic Man.
That's correct. That was my secret until just now. Jordan, you have something for before we get started with the festivities?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. First off, in general, Walking Dead news, in kind of a huge move that wasn't really publicized at all, Walking Dead went day and date with digital comics. Now, for those of you out there who don't know what that means, eventually comics are going to be mostly digital, just like everything else. Yes, some of us like to have that physical book in our hands or the physical disc to put in a player or whatever, but for many people and people on the go, it's just easier if you have a digital version of something. Well, with issue, I believe, 78, which came out this past week, people realized that, hey, the digital version is available at the same exact time at the same price. So there's no press release about it originally. There's nothing like that. Just kind of people figured it out. But from this point on, and Kirkman said he kind of wants to do this with all the comics. If it's out in the stores, it's out digitally, you can get it both places, same price. And that's kind of awesome because not a lot of comic companies are doing that yet. And for Kirkman to be leading the way on that one, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. What's been the wait time usually on new comics? Like a month or a few weeks?
It really depends what company you're talking about. I mean, and what comic even. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's not yet at all.
I know a lot of the Marvel stuff is at least 6 months, if not longer, before it ends up on their Digital Comics Unlimited site.
Right. So I mean, eventually it'll all be probably day and date with all comics, probably. But Walking Dead's one of the first to do it day and date right now, so that's really neat. And then our other piece of news is, as you know, we're part of the Walking Dead Podcast Network, which you can find at forum4geeks.com. That's forum4geeks.com. We have a fourth podcast in the network. We are joined by Zombie Drill Podcast, and that joins us, the Walking Dead TV Podcast, the Walking Dead Cast, and the Talking Dead Podcast. So right now, if you want any news, any podcast, any discussion about The Walking Dead, and your lame friends don't want to talk with you about it, you can just check out forum4geeks.com, get all the links, download all the shows, and all the discussion takes place in one place, so you don't have to have multiple browser windows open or actually do anything for the work. We've done it all for you.
Very cool. Okay, so for episode 3, we have a little bit of an interview extravaganza. I'm going to turn this over to Jordan, and he's going to talk about an interview that he had with Bear McCreary, the composer for the Walking Dead television show, who's also done some other great stuff, but I'll let you hear the interview for all that. And then we are going to run our Robert Kirkman interview, which we had him on the Legion of Dudes while we were talking about the Walking Dead books. He talked about some other stuff. It was a great interview. It ran about a year ago, I would say, at this point, and the television show had just been announced. So we do touch on the television show a little bit. It's more about the Walking Dead comic, but a great interview anyway, so we figured we would include that as well. So Jordan, why don't you give us a little bit of a lead-in to your interview?
Yeah, I got to speak to Mr. Bear McCreary just a few days ago and discuss his process and some of the different shows he's worked on. Most of you probably know him from Battlestar Galactica, but he's done a lot of great work in TV, movies, and even some video games. We didn't really get a chance to talk about the video games, but you can check out his whole, not discography, it's not the right word, but his entire library of works. He's done a ton of great stuff and really excellent music. I personally really love the Human Target soundtrack that he's done, and we get to talk about that sound, including the disc, which is coming out very soon and I'm very excited about. But if you are interested in music whatsoever, or if you like music and TV shows, if you just, that's a really catchy theme, this is a great interview for you because we get to discuss all that kind of stuff in detail.
Okay, so here is Jordan's interview with Bear McCreary.
So we're joined tonight by Mr. Bear McCreary, who is the composer for many fine shows, including Battlestar Galactica, Eureka, Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles, Human Target. He did the soundtrack, or the score for Step Up 3D, and he's going to be doing The Walking Dead starting on Halloween this year. So thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. McCreary.
Absolutely.
Now, to many, if not most of our fans, you're probably most well known for Battlestar Galactica. Can you tell me a little bit about how you started on that show?
Yeah, well, Battlestar Galactica was my first job, basically my first scoring job that I ever got. I had done a lot of student films and a lot of independent films. I mean, maybe not a lot by some standards, but I was very young when I got the show, and I had an opportunity there to kind of, prove myself and do something interesting, and I really loved the show. So I used it as a chance to, really do something special and really put a lot of time and energy into that show, and I was very happy that so many people responded to the series and my work on it, and it really, in many ways, launched my professional career.
Now, you had a very distinct sound on the show that many of us can immediately call to mind, but you actually started working on the show as a collaboration. Is that correct?
That is almost correct. I wouldn't call it collaboration necessarily. I was the assistant for Richard Gibbs, who was the composer. It was totally, he scored the miniseries, and I helped him. But collaboration is probably not the right word. But yes, the soul of what you're saying is true.
And how is that different than just doing it yourself? I mean, what kind of things does the assistant to the main composer actually do in a miniseries such as that?
Well, it's hard to say, because I can't speak in generalities. I can only speak in what I did on Battlestar. In that particular case, I worked with Richard for about a year, maybe a little more than a year, at the time he did the Battlestar miniseries, and it required a huge amount of music to be written in a very short period of time. So I started out helping him do some of the action cues while he was writing a lot of the thematic material. And with that miniseries in particular, the sound of what they wanted was so dark. He had this vision of avoiding typical sounding orchestral music. So it just required a lot of different drafts and a lot of versions. And so I worked very closely with Richard and very closely with producers in helping them figure out what it is with the percussion in particular that they wanted to do. And then after the miniseries, I took over as the series composer when it became a regular series. And at that point, I was able to expand upon a lot of these ideas and really take the show in new directions, which is where it needed to go. Because of course the series was in fact very different than the miniseries in terms of its scope and the number of characters, and it was just a much deeper and broader experience. And so it needed a lot more musical material. So I was able to incorporate instruments from around the world. We started off with a lot of taiko drums and a little sprinkling of some Middle Eastern sounds. I brought in a lot of Middle Eastern sounds and woodwinds. I brought in a lot of new stringed instruments like the electric fiddle and the erhu and the biwa and the koto. I brought in rock and roll elements, and I brought in Italian opera and Muzak and Gaelic music and heavy metal and Indian music. And really, Battlestar was really a cornucopia style. And so for that, it was a real challenge to be able to make all those sounds come together and yet still make it sound like Battlestar Galactica. You didn't want it to sound like a big mess of various instruments. It really needed to have its own sound. So, and I believe it really did.
Now, moving on real quick to Eureka on Sci-Fi. You came into that show in season 2, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And then with Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles on Fox, you had 3 films before that of musical cues and musical themes. How much deference do you give when there's established material and established sound, and how much do you feel free to go off on your own and create new cues and new themes?
Well, it absolutely must be a case-by-case basis. With Battlestar, I was told very specifically to avoid sounding like traditional science fiction, i.e. the original Battlestar Galactica, at all costs. And we did that. I mean, the music doesn't sound anything like what Stu Phillips wrote in the 1970s. However, I did find a few places to homage to that material. And in fact, in the finale, I won't spoil it, but in the finale of the series, there's one sequence in particular that is so powerful and so beautiful, and it was the kind of thing that as a composer you dream of having a sequence this amazing, and I scored it using the original Stu Phillips theme from the 70s because I knew that it would resonate deeply with fans and that it would resonate with me. I really wanted to pay homage to what Stu Phillips had done, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. In the case of Eureka, there's a theme song that's written by Mark Mothersbaugh. I think of it as a theme song for the show, but it's not really functional as a character's theme song. And I also thought that in the first season of the show, which I did not score, that the composers overused that theme and it just kind of beat you over the head with it. So when I came on board the show, the idea that I pitched them was, let's expand this musical universe, because you can do that on TV. You can continue to develop the music as the series develops. And so with Eureka, I brought in a whole bunch of new sounds and new instruments, and I wrote character themes for each character, and really just tried to make the sound of the show a little more sophisticated and interesting, because it's a sophisticated and interesting show. As with the case of Terminator, that one was the exact opposite, because I fully and intentionally embraced the sounds of the first 2 Terminator films, which I felt were canon to the show. If anything, the show was a more authentic sequel to Terminator 2 than any of the other feature films that followed. And I wanted to clue fans into that. I wanted to acknowledge that everyone who worked on the Sarah Connor Chronicles was a huge Terminator fan and felt a lot of love for those first 2 movies. And so I knew right away that the music had to sound right. And with that said, I wasn't just emulating Brad Fiddel's music. I wrote my own original themes, and I brought in a lot of unique instruments, an electric string quartet, and a bunch of metallic percussion and stuff like that was unique to the Sarah Connor Chronicles. But I still felt like its heart and its soul were always rooted in the Brad Fiddel scores. I certainly didn't try to hide it in any way. So it really depends, on what project you're working on, whether or not you try to reinvent the wheel or create something new.
Well, as a person working in a creative medium, do you prefer having a slight basis to work off of, or do you prefer a blank slate to begin with?
Again, there's no preference. Probably I would prefer to have a blank slate unless the previous material is something I feel strongly about. I mean, again, going back to those obvious examples, with Terminator, it wasn't the producers forcing me to use those sounds. In my very first meeting with them, I said, this is what I want to show sound like. And as a fan of Terminator, I'll be really angry if you guys mess this up. And in the case of Eureka, I thought there was some other material that I could bring to the show. The producers agreed with me. So it really depends. I always like to invent my own palette, my own themes, and my own ideas. But of course, if I'm working on a project that has music that is already associated with it, and I think that music has something to offer and something that hasn't been explored with it yet, then by all means, let's play with it.
Now, this past year, you were nominated for an Emmy for your score for Human Target. Would you like to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, no, Human Target was an incredible experience. I think that anybody who has ever listened to soundtracks would just love this music. I mean, Human Target is my homage to the film composers that I grew up listening to and that inspired me to write music in the first place. So unlike Battlestar and Sarah Connor, which have a very contemporary, dark, percussive, brooding kind of sound, Human Target is just sort of joyous orchestral music. It's very much in style of my heroes, Jerry Goldsmith, Elmer Bernstein, Basil Polidor, Alan Silvestri, John Williams, Bernard Herrmann, Ennio Morricone. These are the guys that I always wanted to be when I was growing up. And in fact, I had a full live orchestra at my disposal every week. We actually had the largest orchestra in the history of series television on Human Target. And so every week I was able to produce a feature film score, a full-length feature film score. It was an extraordinary opportunity. And I'm very excited that we have a soundtrack album coming out next month. And on October 5th, the iTunes release of the Human Target soundtrack goes up. And but the fans that really want the full experience should wait till October 19th and get the CD set that's coming out, which is a 3 CD set, which has almost an hour's worth of additional music on it. It's nearly 4 hours of kick-ass orchestral music, and that's coming out from La La Land Records. And it's really exciting. I mean, it was a thrill to be involved in that show. And of course, the Emmy nomination was great because it did remind us that we were doing something that was resonating with people and that people were responding to. So I was very honored that the Academy would recognize my work in that way.
Well, I must say, as a fan of the show, and especially of the music, there's been many an hour I procrastinated doing actual work while having the theme song stuck in my head, so I blame you for that. But
well, that's good. And you'll be in trouble when the album comes out because it'll be stuck in your head for weeks.
Well, I'm very happy to hear about the release date because I've been looking around online and have not been able to find anything on that. So thank you for that bit of information. I'm looking forward to that immensely. Now, seeing as you're going on to 2 brand new shows this fall, are you interested in seeing where people take the music cues you created in Human Target next season, or are you just kind of going to watch it just for the show and the show alone?
Hard to say. I don't know. I mean, personally, Human Target it was a wonderful experience, and I wish whoever takes over the best of luck. But I probably won't be following the music too closely, just because I spent so much of my passion and time and energy on that first season score. So that's kind of, from my experience, where Human Target is probably going to end.
Now, you've spoken several times about the amount of time that goes into episodes of the various shows you've worked on. Do you normally have a similar amount of time per episode to work on across different shows, or does it vary widely between shows how much time you give it?
Well, the common theme is I never have enough time, but in actuality, it does fluctuate wildly. I mean, it really depends on the schedule that the show keeps. So, for example, let me generalize in this way. The music is the last thing to get finished. So when you set out to make a film or a TV show, you make a schedule and you make a budget, and you try to get the script done on time, you try to get prep done on time, then you try to get your shots done each day on time, and then you try to get your cut done on time, then you try to get your focus group testing done, and then all these things happen, and then at the end, music happens. Well, the problem is with that setup, under the vast majority of productions, anything that goes over schedule and anything that goes over budget ends up having an impact on music. And in television, this is true more than any place else, because you have your deadlines you have to make each week, and if the network makes them go back and re-edit an episode because they're not happy with it, or if something goes wrong with production and they lose a week, it all ends up crunching down the music time. And you get those phone calls where people say, okay, well, you're going to end up with 2 days to score this whole episode. And to do what I do, which is all live instruments, professionally mixed and orchestrated and recorded, it can't be done in 2 days. It's not possible. So you find ways to work around this. And sometimes I have a week, sometimes I even have 2 weeks, depending on what's going on. But in general, I always make sure that I have enough time to do what the episode requires. And I've gotten very good about working with producers in scoring rough cuts. I'll score incomplete sequences. I won't even have picture. I'll just start writing what I know is going to be coming, so that I have enough time to write quality music. Because my philosophy is always that you're better off writing really quality music and then having to find a way to make it fit the picture than waiting until the picture's totally done and writing a bunch of shit.
Very interesting.
I can put that on my wall, actually. That'd be a good little motivational, a picture of a kitten or something. That'd be a good little motivational poster.
All right, let's move on now to the 2 brand new shows you're going to be working on this fall, right? I guess already are working on, and that is the one we're most interested in, The Walking Dead on AMC, and then The Cape on NBC later this fall. When did you first become involved with The Walking Dead, and how did you become aware of the series and comic series?
I've been aware of the comics for a long time. It's always been one of my favorite comics of the past 10 years. And I was aware that a couple of people were developing it. But actually, I struck up a friendship with Frank Darabont several years ago because he was a big Battlestar fan, and he still is. And so we've known each other off and on, and I've always been looking for an opportunity to work together. So when he got the show, he called me in to look at it, and I got to read the script. Because I was actually hired before they even shot it, which was cool. It was an opportunity to meet everybody early and start thinking about what I was going to do. I had a few months to get my material together so that I could actually do something interesting. I think it was mostly my work on Battlestar that drew Frank Darabont and Gale Anne Hurd to hiring me, and mostly because they appreciated that I did unusual things on Battlestar, and that's what they wanted on Walking Dead. They wanted something out of the ordinary, something that you wouldn't expect to hear.
So what things should we expect to not expect to hear starting on Halloween?
Well, if I tell you, then you'll expect them. Let me put it this way. The Walking Dead is it's a character piece that happens to take place in the zombie apocalypse. And so what Frank has done and is doing is taking a very realistic approach to what is already a very realistic graphic novel series. So there's room for music, but it's not doing the things that music normally does in a horror movie. One of the reasons this is the case is that the show is already so damn scary. I'll watch these cuts without any music, and I'm literally on the edge of my seat and trying to hold back from throwing up because of the gore. And it's already working. I don't need to add a bunch of dissonant atonal orchestral clusters or screaming brass lines to convince you that it's scary, which is one of my pet peeves of modern horror scoring. That's really one thing that's bugging me about the genre in general, is that I feel like nobody can get scared anymore. So the only thing they can do is, rather than make movies scary, they just make them louder. And and things get louder and louder, and they're just screaming at you all the time. And I knew Frank wouldn't deliver that. And so once I saw that that wasn't the case, then we could start thinking about, okay, what do we want the music to do? And you're going to notice the music is playing, it's commenting more about character issues, more about dramatic issues. It's still really spooky and creepy, but there's more to it than that. And also instrumentation is going to be pretty fun. It's not the kind of typical horror sound that you're used to hearing. So I think people are going to be really surprised by it, and are really going to enjoy it. And hopefully, as is always the case, you don't want them to notice the music. My hope is that people are going to be so drawn up in the drama and the tension and the suspense, they won't even notice how cool the music is until we put out a soundtrack album Monday.
Of course. All right, thank you, Mr. McCreary, for joining us tonight on the Walking Dead TV podcast. Is there anything else aside from the Human Target soundtrack coming out in stores soon that you'd want us to be aware of that we should check out?
Check out my blog, bearmccreary.com/blog, and later in the year we're going to have some really cool announcements. I'm going to be trying to get some cheap music together. We're going to sell on the website, maybe a live DVD of some of our Battlestar Galactica concerts, and there'll be more information about the Cape and a movie I'm doing with Summer Glau called The Knights of Bad Atom. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and my website is going to be the place to keep current on all that.
Awesome. And that website one more time is?
The website is bearmccreary.com.
And can we follow you on Twitter?
Yes, you can, actually. I'm at Bear McCreary, and I'm pretty good about answering questions on Twitter, so if anybody thinks of any random question, shoot me a tweet, and we'll see what happens.
All right, well, we'll be sure to do that, and thank you once again for joining us tonight on the Walking Dead TV podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, we want to thank again Mr. McCreary for coming on and letting us interview him. We also want to thank Beth from InfoSystems and his assistant Kevin for helping set up the entire interview, because we've been without you, and it was really awesome to have him on the show. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
Yeah, that was really cool. I don't think about television music as a rule, but now I definitely do, and I always loved the Galactica music, and that was like the first time that I was really like, wow, this is a really awesome soundtrack. It was a funny coincidence, I guess, that turned out to be Bear also, and now certainly with The Walking Dead, I'll be paying attention a little bit more.
That's what I was going to say. I really enjoyed his work on Galactica, so it'll be really cool to see how he shifts gears with something on a totally different tone like The Walking Dead.
And I know I'll be at the store's opening day to pick up that special 3-disc edition of the Human Target score because, it's so good. That music I can listen to it forever, so I will definitely be there to pick it up, and so should you.
I gotta check out that show.
It's awesome, sir.
I tried it out, and I don't know, we're gonna get way off topic here just real quickly. It started out like it was too lighthearted for me. I guess I was looking for like a little more hardcore spy action type thing. I wasn't prepared for like the comedy.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really get rid of the comedy, but I think they made it so it all meshed really well towards the end. And season 2 has been pushed back to because Fox had some problems with other shows and they had to cancel them. They've held back Human Target for halfway through the season, so you have a little bit extra time to catch up on the first season.
Sweet. I'll probably buy the Blu-ray.
You'd probably buy the Blu-ray anyway, just because you buy every Blu-ray. And I can't say buy a Blu-ray either.
Say that 3 times fast.
Buy a Blu-ray, 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 buy a Blu-ray.
3 times fast.
All right, so now we're going to run our Robert Kirkman interview. Once again, that was from a Legion of Dudes show back last year. I believe it was episode 73. We also cover all of the Walking Dead hardcovers, or a couple of the Walking Dead hardcovers in that show and the following show also. So if you want to check that out, go to legionofdudes.com, and you'll be able to find the episode there. So here's our interview with Robert Kirkman.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We are pleased to have Mr. Robert Kirkman on the phone, creator, image partner, a doodler in your Walking Dead trade paperback if you so happen to have the luxury of getting on. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
So we thought we'd, first of all, shout out to Phyllis Public over at Top Cow, and we appreciate him, helping us out and getting us together and scheduling this interview with you.
That's not necessary, is it? I mean, you don't kind of have to do what it's done, do you? I mean, Phil's a nice guy, but I don't want his head to get any bigger than it already is,
I hear you. So you're current, well, I say current, you've got tons of things going on. I would call you probably the hardest working guy in comics these days, between your regular monthly stuff and then, of course, being an image partner and working on Image United and then the pilot season stuff. You've got a lot going on.
Too much in one. So, it's a lot of fun doing various different things and, being able to bounce from project to project during any given day. And it, keeps things fresh. And I certainly like to work. So, it's good having work.
It beats the alternative, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Something I've noticed a lot lately with writers especially, and there's been a real shift from artists to writers, obviously, in the past 10 years or so. But there are a lot of creators now that are both working on independent and creator-owned projects and working for the big two, yourself included. I mean, you did that really awesome Destroyer miniseries last year. I really was wondering if you think the mutual exclusivity that used to be there is ever going to come back, or I think it just benefits from everybody being able to do what they want.
I certainly, anybody who wants to do what people who want to do what they want, I say bravo. They definitely do what you want. From my perspective, I'm only doing creator-owned stuff right now. The Destroyer miniseries that came out last year was, written while I was still at Marvel before I left, and it took a while to come out. But, my main focus right now is, creator-owned work, just because I feel like there aren't enough people doing creator-owned work. And so, I kind of want to be a creator out there that's saying, if you would like to do creator work and you're scared, here I am, I'm out here doing it, and, everything's great. So, I kind of want to make an example of myself just to show that, you can have a career by just doing career stuff.
How do you see that panning out in the future now with the internet and with internet intellectual property being so much more important?
I don't know what the future holds. I'm hoping that it'll be a little more welcoming to new concepts because, it's kind of an uphill battle selling something that doesn't have 30 years of history and a built-in fan base. So I'm kind of hoping that, as the market broadens into digital platforms and hopefully they'll bring a new audience that doesn't necessarily, only buy Marvel and DC books, which, a lot of people do. I'm hoping that we're looking at some good things coming out in the future.
I've noticed it more in the last 5 to 6 years, more than in before, but it seemed like in the late 80s and the 90s, there was such a push on the art, that people would follow, like the McFarlanes and even, the Silvestris and the Jim Lees and the Alex Rosses. And it seems like in the last few years that, at least the buzz that we hear a lot of is people are following writers. They're following people like yourself, like Ed Brubaker, like Matt Frack, and they're really clinging to the writer, Jeff Johns, and focusing more on the stories. I mean, people still feel art is important because it's a visual medium, but the fact that there's so much emphasis, it seems lately, on the writer, as a writer and creator, does that kind of boost your ego a little bit? Does that make you feel a little better about what you're doing to know that, there seems to be that kind of shift going on?
Well, it's certainly nice for me, I guess. Thinking about it, though, the ideal situation would be a balance of importance where, people follow the writers and they follow the artists and they, consider them to be of equal value or whatnot. With the pendulum, swinging high on artist popularity in the past and currently swinging high on writer popularity now, it would be nice to do another phase where, people view them equally. I certainly appreciate the praise and acclaim and, the lines at the conventions and stuff. That's all nice and everything. But one thing that really frustrates me is when, I read reviews and it's like I have no control over it, but, they'll say, oh, Robert Kirkman did this issue of Invincible and, blah, blah, blah. And it's really kind of frustrating to me because, I don't exactly do that by myself. And, there's a lot of people online will give the writer credit for something that, the artist more than likely did, knowing how the process of a comic is made. And I think that's extremely frustrating for artists, and that part of it kind of sucks. But at the same time, I'm not an artist, so I don't really care.
Well, it seems like, with some of these projects recently, like with Haunt and, Image United and of course, the pilot scene stuff, you've got some pretty strong collaborators working with you, between, Tom McFarlane, of course, Mark Silvestri, who I love Mark Silvestri stuff since the first time he put, pencil to paper on an X-Men book, back in the 80s. And, Greg Capullo and Ryan Otley, who you've, worked for in the past, that must be nice as well to have some strong collaborators and folks that you're used to working with to work on these new projects. So you have some familiarity and I guess some camaraderie even, with these projects, and it's not just, folks that you're just kind of being paired with, it seems.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to work on a book knowing that you can hang back a little bit and let the artist carry the book to a certain extent. When I'm writing a Haunt plot, knowing that Greg Capullo is going to be doing the page breakdowns and everything, I know I don't necessarily need to take a lot of time to describe specific things to him because, that's something that he's really good at, and, I kind of let him stretch his wings on that a little bit. So that part of it's a lot of fun. Also, I'm trying to do as many heavily visual comics as possible because that's the kind of stuff that I think is neat. I think that the things that I like to write and the things that artists like to draw tend to be the things that readers like to see. I like big splash pages and I like cool action scenes and I like comics that move. I like fast-paced stuff. I'm not really as into I've certainly done a bunch myself. I'm not trying to knock or anything, but talking head comics where a guy sitting in a room and chat. I've done many issues of Invincible where Invincible and a guy have sat in a chair and chatted one another and talked for a good long time. I've heard Ryan Otley complain to me for a month because of it, but I'm trying to do more action stuff now, so it's cool to be able to work with guys like Mark Silvestri and Tom McFarlane and Greg Capullo. If only I could talk Larson into doing a book with me.
Yeah.
It must be challenging too, trying to write to different artists' strengths every time too. I'm noticing especially.
I usually make it a point to write to their weaknesses just to mess with them.
Make them early, right?
So I think we kind of get it handed to us if we didn't ask you about kind of the upcoming Walking Dead TV show a little bit. I know there was kind of rampant emails back and forth when that announcement was made. We were all kind of like gleeful little kids, kind of finally. So can you tell us a little bit about working with Frank Darabont and what you guys are doing to develop that?
Frank Darabont has been polishing the pilot script over the last few weeks or whatever, and so that's kind of the stage we're in right now. I can't really say anything definitive because I don't really know anything definitive. As I understand it, everything is moving at pace and looking very good, and so I have high hopes that the series will make it to air. But TV movie stuff is always kind of a crapshoot as to whether or not it'll actually happen. So I haven't bought my solid gold coat yet, but I have one now, so I'm optimistic. But it's looking good. I'm hoping that there will be an official announcement very soon.
Is that at solidgoldboats.com? Is that where I can find that? Or do you shop for a solid gold boat? I was just wondering.
If you get a solid gold boat, you're not going to be getting it online. You're not going to get a good quality one. It's going to be 18 karat gold plating or something, and that's bullshit. If you're going to get a solid gold boat, you want a solid gold boat, so you're going to probably want to get that specially made.
That sounds like a good idea. One of the things we do on the
there's a guy here locally.
there's a guy there locally in Kentucky, really.
I'm trying to run the joke into the ground as much as I can, but
It'd be a hell of a business to be in because you sold one, you'd be set.
That's true.
One of the things we do on the LRD is go in depth on the graphic novels. We do like an issue by issue kind of a dissection of comics. And we've done 2 episodes now on Walking Dead. It's showing up on a lot of critics' top 10 lists for best comic of the decade. And it's again with the TV series behind this, it's getting a lot of attention. And we're just wondering what I wanted to ask is, do you have a definite ending for Walking Dead, or is it just something you can keep writing for until you're ready to retire on your solid gold boat?
I would never keep it going if I ran out of ideas, but the concept is the zombie movie that never ends, and so ending it to me seems kind of dumb. And also. When I started the series, I was really excited because I thought I had a concept that I could keep going with and keep entertaining, for a good long time. And, people have been sending in lectures since, issue 5 came out going, these first 5 issues were good, but I don't think I could keep this going for another 2 years without getting stale. And so, I'm kind of proud that, people still seem to be liking the book and it still seems to be entertaining and it hasn't worn out its welcome yet. And so, I don't have issue 75, it's going to be over, or, issue 150, that's when we're going to cap it off. But, I would end it if I thought it was sucking, if I thought I wasn't doing a good job. But as long as I have, cool ideas for it, as long as I'm feeling good about the series and as long as, it's not, selling poorly or whatever, I plan on keeping it going for as long as I possibly can because, Walking Dead and Invincible are everything that I ever set out to do in comics. I just wanted to have a long run on a book that I could control and do whatever I want with. And, I lucked out and got that in 2 books. And so, I'm not going to finally get to where I always want to be and, stop. That's crazy. That's Brian K. Vaughan talk. And so, I'm going to run this thing into the ground.
I don't see any danger of that in the future. I was glad to hear that it was going to be an episodic TV show rather than just cut down to a movie size. Because I think one of the real strengths of that book is the characters and getting to know them over time.
Yeah, we had offers for, feature films and whatnot. And, I just didn't, and it's just another zombie movie. What's the point? So we that's one of the reasons it took so long for anything to happen with Walking Dead is because we turned a lot of stuff down, waiting for the right, kind of television deal to present itself.
I know you briefly mentioned Invincible there, and I know you're building up to a very big storyline you've been building up to for a long time. The Invincible War itself was huge, epic, every character in the Image universe. But the Viltrumite War has been something that's been building up since issue 1. Are you excited to finally get to that storyline after all this time, after all the different build-ups and everything? And again, Invincible, you said, is everything you set out to do as a character. Is Mark going to grow up a little bit and be, move out of the teenage and into the adult, or are you just going to keep him in that Spider-Man zone of high school age?
No, I think he's already matured quite a bit. He went to college and then quit college, so he's pretty much an adult at this point, and we'll continue pushing things towards that as time goes on. I would never try and age him in real time or anything like that, but there will be a progression to the book, and the characters will grow old, and we've already seen a lot of changes in Mark so far, and I think that we'll continue to see more. Some of which will be spilling out of the Viltrumite War. War, which is going to be a big deal. So, and that starts in issue 71, that I think begins in, issues in March. So I'm pretty excited. And that's going to be the longest storyline we've ever done in the book, which I think is fitting since it's, been something that we've been preparing for since the first issue of the series. So, get some cool stuff in. I think there's going to be some surprises along the way. Space stuff, that's always going to be fun. So I'm excited.
As are we all. One of our co-hosts couldn't be on today, but he is a huge fan of the Astounding Wolfman, and he was
not a fan if he couldn't be on today, but
Actually, Robert, he works teaching high school to prisoners. So he couldn't break out of jail to be here today.
Yeah. You have anything else better to do? So anyway,
he's a big fan of that book, and he was, kind of disappointed to see it go away. And his question, I guess, was he was curious: is it just kind of the victim of all you have going on and something kind of having to kind of go to the back burner, or kind of go to the wayside, or is it did you just kind of did it run its course? I don't know if you can kind of talk about the ending of that book.
It was kind of, it was a lot of things. Definitely, my workload and my plans for stuff, and being able to do that was a part of it. And but also it was a natural story progression that came through through the book. We've been building up towards a lot of things in the series, and all of those things seemed to come together in the plotting into one big story. And after that was over, everything was going to be resolved. And so I was thinking about what to do next, and it kind of occurred to me, you could end this book, which is not something that I've ever really thought of before. And so I thought about it, and I was like, because Jason and I had been talking about some other projects that we'd like to do, and so I'll still get to work with Jason, and I'll get to do some new stuff, which is exciting, and hopefully Wolfman will wrap up in a huge finale that everyone finds satisfying, and win-win situation for everyone. So that was kind of the decision process there. And I guess it sucks for anybody that's enjoying the book to see the book come to an end, but I plan on doing something else that people that enjoy that book will also enjoy, and so I'm not going to be replacing Danger Unlimited with Babe, John Byrne reference. But so yeah, when people see the end of the series, hopefully they'll go, oh yeah, this is good. Anything after this would have been better. So we'll see.
Gotcha. One of the things I appreciate,
that's a secret. He dies, so that's how I can't do anything after issue 25. So I'm joking.
Spoiler alert. Now, one of the things I appreciate with the creator-owned work that you don't see with the big two, and a lot of it, I guess, goes back to licensing the characters and perpetual, licensing of them, where they want to be able to I guess, suck money out of these things until there's nothing left, and then try and keep going even after the fact. But with the creator-owned stuff, what I appreciate is the fact that nothing is sacred, and we see that, especially with Walking Dead, where we can get so attached to a certain character, and then boom, the rug gets pulled out from under us, and that character, changes or dies or goes away or whatever. And the fact that a lot of the, in my opinion, the better creator-owned stuff is the stuff where folks, like yourself, where you're not afraid to kind of take chances with these characters, and you have a story to tell, and you're going to tell that story, as opposed to thinking it in the terms of like the bigger machine. I see that kind of being setting up with with Murder, where characters, hopefully it continues on, a lot of characters floating in, floating out kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits to creator-owned stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons why creator-owned comics seem to appeal to people who have been reading comics for a good long time, because after a certain while the curtain kind of gets pulled back, and you realize that Dr. Octopus is always going to come back, and Spider-Man's never really going to die, and creative teams are going to be rotating in and out, and so they're always going to be reset and ignored, and so no matter how much it seems like there's a plan and how much it seems like things are building up to something, it's not actually building up to anything. And along the way, there's excellent stories that are done, and definitely everybody reads those books. I read those books, but I think that creator-owned comics as a whole offers something a little more unique, and I think a little more fulfilling in a long-term reading situation, assuming the book's not going to get canceled.
Right.
It does have, though. So yeah.
Well, I see from the clock on the wall we've taken up a lot of time, Mr. Kirkman. I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for your candid answers, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, especially about pilot season. The first issue, Murder, is already out. The second issue, Demonic, I believe, ships this month, if I'm not correct. Thank you a lot for your time today, so we really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me, guys. A lot of fun.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our interview with Robert Kirkman and our other interview with Bear McCreary. We want to send out thanks to both those gentlemen for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. You can check us out at WalkingDeadTV.com. You can also check out Half Hour Wasted and Legion of Dudes, our brother podcast, at HHWLOD.com. You can follow us on Twitter at WDTV Podcast and also at LOD Tweet or at JordanFRM Jersey. That way you'll find out when the shows are out before anybody else. You can check out the Facebook pages for all of our shows. They're very easily searchable on Facebook. Leave us a voicemail. Call 516-468-7912. 516-468-7912. Hey, do you like Daredevil? Well, you want to check out Speak of the Devil, our other brother podcast. If you go to WalkingDeadTV.com or HHWLOD.com, look right on the left. There's a link right there to Speak of the Devil. You can subscribe to that on iTunes or directly from the site. As for me, you can find my weekly video comic reviews at youtube.com/JordanFromJersey. That's youtube.com/JordanFromJersey, or we post them directly up on HHWLOD.com as well. And hey, we're a proud member of the Walking Dead Podcast Network, and the WDPN can be found at forumforgeeks.com. That's right, go to forumforgeeks.com. You're going to find links to about 26 shows right now. 4 of them, Walking Dead specific, and we are the Walking